Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture session of this course heat transfer. So in the last lecture we have started discussing the concept of the heat exchanger. Then we have discussed various classification of the heat exchanger. Like this, these are the various classification of the heat exchanger, like nature of heat exchange process, then based on relative direction of fluid motion, then design and constructional features, then physical states of fluids. So based on these different classifications or these different parameters we have seen, and we have discussed various kinds of heat exchangers. So all these things, this parallel flow, counter flow, cross flow, then different shell and tube heat exchanger, multipass flow arrangement, all these things have been discussed in the last lecture. After that we have discussed the heat exchanger analysis, various equations regarding this heat exchanger analysis. Then we have discussed the concept of the LMTD, that is logarithmic mean temperature difference, and this LMTD equation or a derivation of this LMTD for the parallel flow we have discussed in the last class. Okay? So up to this formula, that is theta m equals to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So this theta m, it is the LMTD, that is logarithmic mean temperature difference. So this equation and the derivation for this equation, that is LMTD for the parallel flow, we have discussed in the last lecture. Okay. So today we will continue from this one. We will today discuss the LMTD equation for the counter flow. Okay, and based on these equations we will discuss different numericals today. So let us start this lecture. So here you can see the counter flow arrangement and the temperature versus area for the counter flow heat exchanger is plotted. So here in this diagram you can see in the temperature distribution diagram the hot and cold fluid, its inlet and outlet, and the temperature difference, that is theta 1 and theta 2 at the inlet and outlet, these are given here. Okay, so let us consider an elementary area dA of this heat exchanger. Now the rate of flow of heat through this elementary area, it is given by dq is equal to u dA th minus tc. So this equation, it is already known to us. dq is equal to dA th minus tc, it is hot fluid minus cold fluid, so that means u dA delta t. Now here in this case, due to the heat transfer dq through the area, that is the elementary area dA that we have considered, the hot fluid is cooled down by dth, whereas the cold fluid is heated by dTc. Now the energy balance over the differential area, it can be represented as dq is equal to minus m dot h, that is the mass flow rate for the hot fluid, and the cph, that is the specific heat for the hot fluid, and the temperature for the hot fluid. So this is equals to minus m dot c, then cpc and dtc, that is all these parameters for the cold fluid. Now in this counter flow system, the temperatures of both the fluids decrease in the direction of heat exchanger length, that is the negative sign will be there. So as per our concept of the counter flow, we know that the two fluids, that means the hot fluid and cold fluid, in case of the counter flow, they flow in the opposite direction. That means they enter and they gets out of this heat exchanger in the opposite ends. And we have seen also that this, due to this counter flow nature of such heat exchanger, they gives the maximum rate of heat transfer for a given surface area, and that's why they are favored mostly compared to the parallel flow heat exchanger nowadays. So these are the concept of the counter flow heat exchanger that is already discussed earlier. Now here dTh this is equals to minus dq m dot h Cph, that is equals to minus dq by Ch. So capital C, this is equals to m dot h and Cph, that is for the hot fluid. So in this similar manner, dTc this is equals to minus dq divided by C suffix c. Now if we subtract the second one, that is dTc, from the first one, that is dTh, then after some step we will get that d theta this is equals to minus dq 1 by ch minus 1 by cc. That is the equation number 10.13 that we are getting here. So what is the capital Ch and capital Cc? So these are the heat capacity for the hot fluid and Cc is the heat capacity for the cold fluid. So Ch, capital Ch, this is equals to m dot h multiplied by Cph, and Cc, capital C suffix c, this is equals to m dot c multiplied by Cpc. So these are the heat capacity or water equivalent for the hot fluid and cold fluid respectively. Now if we put the value of dq in this equation 10.13 from the earlier equation, in that case we will get the equation for d theta, that is dth minus dtc, this is equals to minus u dA theta multiplied by 1 by ch minus 1 by cc. So that means d theta by theta we are getting minus u dA 1 by ch minus 1 by cc. Now if we integrate this equation from a equals to 0 to a equals to a, it is for the limit of the area if we consider, then after some step and doing the integration within this limit 0 to a, we will get that ln theta 2 by theta 1, this is coming as minus ua 1 by ch minus 1 by cc. So this u, it is the overall heat transfer coefficient between the hot and cold fluids, and capitally it is the effective heat transfer area here. So this is the equation 10.14 that we are getting now. Now the total heat transfer rate between these two fluids, these can be represented as capital Q equals to Ch multiplied by the temperature difference, this is equals to Cc multiplied by the temperature difference for the cold fluid. So from this equation number 10.15 we can get the representation of 1 by Ch, that is 1 by heat capacity for the hot fluid, this is equals to Th1 minus Th2 divided by Q. And in this similar manner we can represent the heat capacity or water equivalent for the cold fluid, it is 1 by Cc, this is equals to Tc2 minus Tc1 divided by Q. So these are the equation 10.15a and 10.15b we are getting here. Now if we substitute these values of 1 by Ch and 1 by Cc in the earlier equation, then ln theta 2 by theta 1 we are getting as minus ua, and we are putting the value of the 1 by Ch and 1 by Cc here. After 2 or 3 steps we are getting as ua minus ua by q multiplied by theta 1 minus theta 2, or it can be written as ua by q divided by theta 2 minus theta 1. So here the theta 1, it is the th1 minus tc2, and theta 2 equals to th2 minus tc1. So which we can see in this diagram, that is theta 1 equals to th1 minus tc2, that is in the left hand side of this temperature distribution diagram, and theta 2 it is written here in the right hand side of this temperature distribution diagram, so which is actually th2 minus tc1, that is the outlet of the hot fluid and the inlet of the cold fluid. So this is equals to theta 2. So that means we are getting Q equals to ua theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln theta 2 by theta 1. But we know that Q equals to ua theta m from the heat exchanger analysis part. So that means the theta m, that is the logarithmic mean temperature difference, this is we are getting as theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln theta 2 by theta 1. So this is equals to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So this is the formula of the logarithmic mean temperature difference, or LMTD, in case of the counter flow heat exchanger. So this equation also we need to remember to solve the numericals based on the counter flow heat exchanger analysis. Now, one special case will arise when theta 1 equals to theta 2 equals to theta in case of a counter flow heat exchanger. So in that case, we are having that theta m, this is equals to 0 by 0, so this is equals to indeterminate, as undefined. Now the value of the theta m for such case, it can be found by applying the L'Hospital's rule that we have studied in our school level mathematics, the L'Hospital's rule. So in that case, limit theta 2 tends to theta 1, this is equals to theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln theta 2 by theta 1. So if we do some steps here using the L'Hospital's rules, and if we take into assumption that theta 2 by theta 1, this is equals to r, so in that case limit r tends to 1, theta r minus 1 divided by ln r. Now differentiating the numerator and denominator with respect to r and taking the limits, we are getting now that limit r tends to 1, theta divided by 1 by r, this is equals to theta. Now hence theta 1 equals to theta 2. So equals the earlier equation, this is coming as q equals to ua theta. Now this theta m for a counter flow unit, it is always greater than that for a parallel flow unit. So this condition or this concept we need to remember, that the logarithmic mean temperature difference for a counter flow, it is always greater than for a parallel flow heat exchanger. So that's why the counter flow heat exchanger can transfer more heat than parallel flow heat exchanger. Or we can also say that a counter flow heat exchanger, it needs a smaller heating surface for the same rate of heat transfer compared to the parallel flow heat exchanger. And for this reason, the counter flow arrangement is usually used in our daily life. Now there is another concept, that is arithmetic mean temperature difference, which in short it is written as AMTD, that is arithmetic mean temperature difference. So when the temperature variations of the fluids, these are relatively small, then the temperature variation curves, these are approximately straight lines. And in that case, accurate results we can obtain by taking the arithmetic mean temperature difference instead of using the LMTD. So the formula for this arithmetic mean temperature difference, this is equals to theta 1 plus theta 2 divided by 2. Okay. So the concept for this arithmetic mean temperature difference, it is that when the temperature variations of the hot and cold fluids, these are relatively small. So in that case, the temperature variation curves, these are approximately straight lines. And for such cases, the accurate results are obtained by taking the AMTD, that is arithmetic mean temperature difference. So that formula is theta 1 plus theta 2 divided by 2. And there is one thing in case of this LMTD that we need to remember, that LMTD should be invariably used when theta 1 by theta 2, this is greater than 1.7. So that condition we need to first check that theta 1 by theta 2, if it is greater than 1.7, in that case the LMTD can be used invariably. So the next topic, it is the overall heat transfer coefficient. Now in case of a heat exchanger in which two fluids are separated by a plain wall, in that case the overall heat transfer coefficient's formula, it is capital U equals to 1 by Hi plus L by K plus 1 by Ho. So this thing we have already studied earlier. Now if the fluids are separated by a tube wall, then the overall heat transfer coefficient, it can be represented as, for the inner surface it is Ui, this is equals to 1 by Hi plus Ri by K ln R naught by Ri plus Ri by R naught multiplied by 1 by H naught. So this is for the inner surface, and similarly in case of the outer surface, this is the mathematical representation of the overall heat transfer coefficient. Now in that case Ui Ai, this is equals to U naught A naught, or U AO, that is for the outer surface. Now this Ai, this is equals to 2 pi RIL, and this AO, that is the area for the outer surface, this is also equals to 2 pi R naught or ROL. So these are the formula for the overall heat transfer coefficient. Now there is one important term that is known as fouling or scaling. So what is this fouling or scaling? So it is seen that in case of a heat exchanger, during its normal operation, the tube surfaces of the heat exchanger, it gets covered by the deposits of ash, soot, dirt and scale, etc. Now this phenomenon of rust formation and deposition of fluid impurities, it is called fouling. So what is that actually? That during any normal operation of the heat exchanger, it is seen that the tube surfaces of that device, it is covered by the deposits of dirt, ash, soot, scale, etc. Now this phenomenon of the rust formation and deposition of these such fluid impurities in the tube surface of the heat exchanger, it is known as the fouling. Now due to this surface deposits, the thermal resistance, it is increased, and in that case the performance of the heat exchanger, it gets decreased due to this formation of these different kinds of deposits. Now the material deposits on the surfaces of the heat exchanger tubes, this may add more thermal resistance to heat transfer. So such type of deposits of the ash, soot, dirt and scale, all these things, these are actually detrimental to the heat exchange process for such any type of heat exchanger, and this is actually known as the fouling. So such fouling, it actually significantly affect the performance of the heat exchanger. Now since it is difficult to ascertain the thickness and thermal conductivity of the scale deposits, so the effect of scale on heat flow, it is considered by specifying an equivalent scale heat transfer coefficient Hs. So if Hsi and Hso be the heat transfer coefficient for the scale deposited on the inside and outside surfaces respectively, then the thermal resistances to scale formation on the inside surface and the outside surface, these are given by the following equations, that is Rsi, that is the thermal resistance for the inside surface, this is equals to 1 by Ai Hsi, and this thermal resistance for the outer surface is equals to 1 by Ao Hso. Now the reciprocal of the scale heat transfer coefficient Hs, it is called the fouling factor. The reciprocal of the scale heat transfer coefficient Hs. So the notation, it is Rf. So as this is the reciprocal of the scale heat transfer coefficient, so in that case The fouling factor Rf, it is represented by 1 by Hs meter square degree centigrade per watt. Now these fouling factors, these are determined experimentally by testing the heat exchanger in both the clean and dirty conditions. So this is the concept to find the fouling factor. So based on this concept, Rf equals to 1 by Hs, this is equals to 1 by U dirty minus 1 by U clean. So this U is actually the overall heat transfer coefficient. So Rf, this fouling factor, this is equals to 1 by U dirty minus 1 by U clean. Now the heat transfer, considering the thermal resistance due to scale formation, which is due to this occurrence of the fouling, the heat transfer formula, this can be represented like this, equation number 10.26. So the overall heat transfer coefficient, capital U, this is based on the inner and outer surfaces of the inner tube. So in that case, if we consider the inner and outer surfaces for the overall heat transfer coefficient, so in that case we are getting the formula of the overall heat transfer coefficient for the inner surface is equation number 10.27, and the formula of the outer surface for formula for the overall heat transfer coefficient for the outer surface, this is we are getting as equation number 10.28. Now if the tube, it is thin walled and the thermal resistances due to tube wall thickness and scale form are neglected, in that case the overall heat transfer coefficient based on the outer surface, it can be represented as U naught, this is equals to 1 by Hi plus 1 by H naught, this is equation number 10.21. And when the only the fouling factors are neglected, that is that Rf part, if these are neglected, in that case we are getting U naught, this is equals to 1 by R naught by Ri multiplied by 1 by Hi plus R naught by K ln Rho by Ri plus 1 by H naught. So these are some special cases. So neglecting the scale formed and neglecting the fouling factors. Now this fouling, this can be caused by some reasons. So what are those reasons? That is what we have seen, the scaling. In case of this fouling, it is one of the most common form of the fouling, and it is actually associated with inverse solubility salts. So the example of such type of salts is that CaCO3, CaSO4, CaSiO3, MgSiO3. So these are some example of such salts. Then there is one thing, that is corrosion fouling. So it is caused by the chemical reaction of some fluid constituents with the heat exchanger tube material. Okay, so this is known as the corrosion fouling. So next there is another thing that is known as the chemical reaction fouling. So this chemical reaction fouling, it involves, from the name itself we can say, it involves the chemical reactions in the process stream which results in the deposition of material on the tubes of the heat exchanger. So such chemical reaction fouling, it actually occurs in case of the food processing industries. Okay. So these are some reasons of the fouling. That is, we have seen that scaling, then corrosion fouling, after that the chemical reaction fouling. Next there are some more reasons like the freezing fouling. So from the name itself, again we can get an idea that it occurs when the portion of the hot stream, it is cooled to near the freezing point for one of its components. So this is known as the freezing fouling. So it actually occurs in case of the refineries where the paraffin frequently solidifies from different petroleum products at various stages of that refining process. Next, there is another point that is known as the biological fouling. So it actually commonly happens where the untreated water from some natural resources such as rivers or lakes, these are actually the natural resources, it is used as a coolant. So biological microorganisms such as algae or other microbes can grow inside the heat exchanger, and it can affect the performance of the heat transfer. So this is actually the concept of the biological fouling. And the last reason is the particulate fouling. So it results from the presence of microscale sized particles in solution. So what happens actually when such particles, microscale sized particles, it accumulates on a heat exchanger surface. In that case, they sometimes fuse and they harden. So in that case, what happens if they are fused with the heat exchanger surface, and if they are hardened, in that case it is difficult to remove such type of deposits from the surface of the heat exchanger tubes. So these are the 6 different points or the reasons for the fouling in case of a heat exchanger. Now these are some points, some important points. It means the overall heat transfer coefficient depends upon the following factors, that is the flow rate, the properties of the fluid, the thickness of the material, the surface condition of the tubes, and the geometrical configurations of the heat exchanger. So these are the 5 different points. So based on who is the overall heat transfer coefficient, it depends. Okay, in this overall heat transfer coefficient U, it will generally decrease when any of the fluids, example tars, oils, or any of the gases having low values of the heat transfer coefficient H flows on one side of the exchanger. Then all the thermal resistances in the heat exchanger must be low for its efficient and effective design. And there is one thing, in case of boiling and condensation process, the values of overall transfer coefficient, these are high. So in one of the next lectures we will study that module, that is the boiling and condensation. Now let us discuss the numericals based on this LMTD formula for the parallel and counter flow type of heat exchanger. So what the question says here, the flow rates of hot and cold water streams running through a parallel flow heat exchanger, these are 0.2 kg per second and 0.5 kg per second respectively. The inlet temperatures on the hot and cold sides are 75 degrees centigrade and 20 degrees centigrade respectively. The exit temperature of hot water is 45 degrees centigrade. Now, if the individual heat transfer coefficients on both sides are 650 watt per meter square degree centigrade, so we need to calculate the area of the heat exchanger. So in this numerical, the mass flow rate for the hot and cold fluids, these are given as 0.2 meter kg per second and 0.5 kg per second. And the temperature for the inlet for the hot and cold side, for these are given as TH2 is 75 degree centigrade, TH1 is 75 degree centigrade, and TC1 is 20 degree centigrade. Now the exit temperature or outlet temperature of the hot water, this is also given 45 degrees. So TH2, this is 45 degree. And the individual heat transfer coefficients on both sides, that is HI, this is equal to H naught, this is equals to 650 watt per degree centigrade. So these are the things given. Now we need to calculate the area of the heat exchanger for this parallel flow numerical, parallel flow concept. Now to find the area of the heat exchanger, this is the diagram actually for the parallel flow heat exchanger analysis. So in this diagram we can see that TH1, that is the inlet temperature of the hot fluid, is 75 degree, this is given. TH2, this is given 45 degree centigrade. TC1, this is given 20 degree centigrade, and TC2, which is actually written here as 32 degree centigrade, that we need to calculate by using different equations in this numerical. Now how to calculate the TC2, that is the outlet temperature of the cold fluid. So this formula it is known to us, that is the heat transfer rate, that is Q equals to m dot H Cph multiplied by the temperature difference for the hot fluid, that is Th1 minus Th2. Now the mass flow rate for the hot fluid, this is given as 0.2, and the specific heat for the hot fluid, it is in case of water, this is a constant value and that this value may not be given in the numerical. So we need to remember this value, and which is equals to 4.187 in case of water. And the temperature at the inlet and outlet of the hot surface or hot fluid, this is given as 75 and 45. So we can put all this value in this equation of the heat transfer rate considering the hot fluid. So it is coming as 25.12 kilojoule per second. Now the heat lost by the hot water, this is equals to the heat gained by the cold water. So that is from our concept of the heat exchanger, you know. Now the heat lost by the hot water, so that is we have calculated just now, m dot H Cph multiplied by Th1 minus Th2. So this is equals to heat gained by the cold water. So this is actually m dot C Cpc multiplied by Tc2 minus Tc1. So in this equation, except the value of Tc2, that is the outlet temperature of the cold fluid. So except this Tc2, all the values are actually given, or some values that we need to remember, which are some default values, that is the specific heat of the water. So if we put all these known values in this numerical, then after some steps we will get the outlet temperature of the cold fluid, that is 32 degrees centigrade. Now we need to calculate actually the area of the heat exchanger of this parallel flow. Now we need to use the LMTD formula for the logarithmic mean temperature difference. So from the earlier discussion we have seen that the formula for the LMTD, this is equals to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So what are these theta 1 and theta 2? So theta 1, it can be seen from this temperature distribution graph, that is theta 1 equals to Th1 minus Tc1. So that is 75 minus 20 degrees centigrade, and theta 2, this is equals to Th2 minus Tc2, that is at the right hand side, that is the outlet temperatures of the hot and cold fluid. So theta 1 is the inlet temperatures of the hot and cold fluid, and theta 2, it is the outlet temperature of the cold fluid, hot and cold fluid. That means theta 1 and theta 2, these are known to us. Now if we put all these values in this formula of the LMTD, that is logarithmic mean temperature difference, then after some steps we will get the value of this LMTD. This is coming as 29.12 degrees centigrade. So this is the value of the LMTD that we are getting here. Now to calculate the area of the heat exchanger, we need to use the formula of the overall heat transfer coefficient, that is capital U. Now this formula of the overall heat transfer coefficient, this is actually 1 by Hi plus 1 by Ho. This is the formula of the overall heat transfer coefficient. Now this Hi and Ho, these are actually given in the question, which are same and equals to 650. So that means we are getting capital U, that is the value of the overall heat transfer coefficient. This we are getting as 325 watt per meter degree centigrade. Now if we use the formula of the heat transfer as UA theta m, that is the multiplication of overall heat transfer coefficient, then area and the value of the LMTD. So in that case the Q, it is known to us, that we have calculated in the earlier page, that is Q equals to the heat transfer rate, that 25.122. So that means Q we have calculated, U, that is the overall transfer coefficient, we have calculated here in this slide actually. So it is coming as 325 watt per meter square degree centigrade. Then theta m, that is the value of the logarithmic mean temperature difference, LMTD. So this value we have calculated the earlier page, that is 29.12 degrees centigrade. So if we put all these values in this formula of the heat transfer, then we are getting the area of the heat exchanger as 2.66 meters square. Okay, so this is the method by which we have calculated the area of the heat exchanger in case of the parallel flow heat exchanger analysis. Okay, so these are not very complicated. We need to only remember the formula for the logarithmic mean temperature difference and the overall heat transfer coefficient formula. Okay, so this is the method to solve such type of numerical. So let us try to discuss one more numerical. The following data relate to a parallel flow heat exchanger in which air is heated by hot exhaust gases. The heat transfer per hour, it is given here 1,55,450 kilojoule. Then inside heat transfer coefficient, this is given 120 watt per meter square degree centigrade. Then outside heat transfer coefficient, it is given 195 watt per meter square degree centigrade. Then inlet and outlet temperatures of the hot fluid, this is given 450 degree centigrade and 250 degree centigrade respectively. Then inlet and outlet temperatures of the cold fluid, it is given as 60 degree centigrade and 120 degree centigrade respectively. Next, inside and outside diameters of the tube, these are given as 50 mm and 60 mm respectively. So we need to calculate the length of the tube required for the necessary heat transfer to occur, and it is given as, we can neglect the tube resistance. So let us first write what are the things given in this question. So the first part that is given, that is Q, heat transferred per hour, it is given. Then HI, this is given 120. H naught, this is, or HO, this is 195. TH1, inlet and outlet temperature of the hot fluid. So TH1 is given 450, TH2 is given 250 degrees centigrade. Then inlet temperature of the cold fluid, this is given 60 degrees centigrade. Outlet temperature of the cold fluid, this is given 120 degrees centigrade. DI, that is the inlet inside diameter of the tube, that is given 0.05 meter, and outside diameter of the tube, it is given 0.06 meter. Now we need to calculate the length of the tube required for the necessary heat transfer to occur. So here, as this is a case of the parallel flow heat exchanger, then we can use the formula of the LMTD in case of a parallel flow heat exchanger. So the formula of the LMTD for this parallel flow heat exchanger, it is theta m equals to theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So what is this theta 1 and theta 2? These are actually known to us. So from this diagram we know that theta 1, this is TH1 minus TC1, and theta 2, this is TH2 minus TC2. So if we put all these values which are actually given in the question, then we can get that theta m, this is equals to, that is the LMTD for this parallel flow, it is 236.66 degrees centigrade. Now if we use the formula for the overall heat transfer coefficient, then U equals to R naught by Ri multiplied by 1 by Hi plus 1 by Ho. So as all these values are given in this question, then you can calculate the value of the overall heat transfer coefficient, and which is coming as 66.09 watt per meter square degree centigrade. Now the formula of the heat transfer rate, that is Q equals to UA theta m. Now this overall heat transfer coefficient we have calculated. Then the theta m, that is the logarithmic mean temperature difference for this parallel fluid, is also known to us. The area for this tube surface, it is actually pi dl. So d naught, it is also known to us as the diameter is given for the outside surface. Now this L, that is the length of the tube for this heat exchanger. This one is actually now unknown in this numerical, which actually we need to find. So if we put all the known values in this equation, then we can calculate the unknown parameter here, that is the length of the tube for this parallel flow heat exchanger, which is coming as 14.65 meter. So similarly in this numerical also we have just used the formula of the LMTD for the parallel flow, then the formula of the overall heat transfer coefficient, and the total heat transfer rate in general form, that is Q equals to U A theta M. So using all these things we have calculated the length of the heat tube for this heat transfer. The next numerical, so in a certain double pipe heat exchanger, hot water flows at a rate of 5000 kg per hour and it gets cooled from 95 degrees centigrade to 65 degrees centigrade. At the same time, 50,000 kg per hour of cooling water at 30 degrees centigrade enters the heat exchanger. The flow conditions are such that overall heat transfer coefficient remains constant at 2270 watt per meter square Kelvin. We need to determine the heat transfer area required and the effectiveness, assuming two streams are in parallel flow. So we need to assume for the both the stream Cp equals to 4.2 kJ per kg Kelvin. Now from the given data, we can write that mass flow rate of the hot fluid and mass flow rate of the cold fluid we can write here. Then TH1, TH2, TC1, these are given. We need to calculate the value of the TC2, that is the outlet temperature for the cold fluid. Next, overall transfer coefficient, it is also given. And the specific heat for the hot and cold fluid, these are given 4200 joule per kg Kelvin. Now the concept for the heat exchanger, that is heat lost by hot water, this is actually heat gained by cold water. So if we use the formula here, then we can ultimately calculate the value of the outlet temperature of the cold fluid. So this is the diagram for the parallel flow heat exchanger, which is familiar to us. Now if we use the logarithmic mean temperature difference for the parallel flow heat exchanger, then after putting all the values we are getting the value of the LMTD. This is coming as 23.4 degrees centigrade. If we use the formula, that is Q equals to U A theta M, so in that case only the area we need to find here and all the other values it is known to us. So in that case the heat transfer area, it can be calculated from this equation and it is coming as 32.95 meters square. Now to calculate the effectiveness of the heat exchanger, it is Q actual, the formula is Q actual divided by Q max, that is the actual heat transfer rate divided by maximum heat transfer rate. So this concept actually we will study in the next lecture, that is effectiveness NTU method, that is number of transfer units. So in that case we will see that this effectiveness of the heat exchanger, it is Q actual heat transfer divided by maximum possible heat transfer. So these are the formula for this actual and maximum possible heat transfer which is known to us. Now if we put all these values here, then after some steps we will be getting the effectiveness of the heat exchanger. This is as 0.461. So these are the references, and this is actually the end of this lecture. So here today we have discussed the logarithmic mean temperature difference for the counterflow heat exchanger, and overall heat transfer coefficient equation we have seen. And based on all these equations, we have discussed three different numericals for how to calculate the length of the heat exchanger tube or the area of the heat exchanger. So for the parallel flow heat exchanger concept, we have discussed all these things today. So this is the end of this lecture.